News, facts, opinion. Lace up those kicks and hold on tight. It's about to go down. Welcome to the Conservative Minded Podcast, a place where realness and rights trump emotions and fear. If you're looking for conservative talk with a soulful, educated vibe, then it's time to crank it up. Now, here's your host, a published author, a righteous brother, a soldier, scholar, and patriot, Mr. Hell of a Robert Waples.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you back to another episode, another week of the Conservative Minded Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Robert Waples, a.k.a. Mr. Helliver, and I want to welcome you back. This week, we got a whole lot to talk about, man. It has been a very, very exciting couple of weeks here, over here at the Conservative Minded Podcast and all across America. One of the things that we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about a whole host of things this week, but one of the things that we're going to spend a lot of time talking about this week is the Mueller investigation, the report that came back, basically, giving us the lowdown in the 411 on the President of the United States, the freest man, the most powerful man in the free world. I'm going to talk about Jesse Smollett having 16 felony counts dropped against him out there in Chicago. We're going to talk about the Green New Deal and AOC failing to get one single vote in the Senate, in support of her Green New Deal, So I want to welcome you to this week's podcast. So let's jump and dive right on into it. Man, this week for me, it's not just a week. I mean, it's been really kind of rough as of late. There's just so many things going on with me trying to wrap up my degree, and things at work are starting to take off. The weather's getting nicer outside, and family things, the family wants to do more things, and there's things at work that needs to be done around the house, and the pets are running through here. I got a cat that's running through here that's just like literally destroying my couch. I don't quite understand why. I think she just doesn't like the color of it or something. I don't know. But yeah, she's running through and just scratching the living hell out of my couch. So but yeah, there's just so much going on in my life right now that it's fine. It's you never find out how important small things are until you don't have time left to do them. And I can tell you right now, the most important thing to me right now is not even money at this point. I would give my right arm for just 8 hours of sleep. 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep to me is worth all the money in all the gold in Fort Knox. So, folks, as you get older out there, take it from me. My birthday was last week and everything. I turned 44, and let me tell you something. I'm getting older, and as you get older, value your time, your powering down time. Spend some time reading a good book. Spend some time curled up underneath a blanket watching Netflix by yourself. Take some time out to just be alone for a little while. Get some sleep. Get some rest. Trust me, it goes a very long way for your physical and mental well-being. So I'm finding out, how much I miss all the little small things like that. So what are we going to talk about this week? Oh boy, I just don't know where to start. First off, I've got a new hero in the Senate. All right. I used to be a very big Rand Paul fan. And then, I was going to, everybody who listens to this podcast, there's no mistake about it, who I supported for president, and it wasn't Donald Trump. I was a very, very, very big fan of Ted Cruz, that ran for president. And so, I actually supported Ted Cruz for a very long time, and he was more or less my hero up there in the Senate. But I could honestly tell you right now that he has been replaced. It's no longer Rand Paul, y'all. It's no longer Ted Cruz. My new hero is a senator out of Utah by the name of Mike Lee. Oh my God. And I'm just, I'm letting you know right now, if you got your kids listening right now, you might want to earmuffs. this fucking dude is unbelievable, man. He got up on the Senate floor, and he did a picture show. I'm telling you, you got to go back and see if you can go on cspan.com or go back and take a look at the actual vote where this senator got up on the floor of the U.S. Congress and gave a speech. And he had what do you call them? What do you call them things? Like in the military, we call them butcher blocks, which is basically just a big easel with big white paper on it. And this was before we had whiteboards and stuff like that. But this guy had like a slideshow up there on an easel that was run by his assistant, I'm assuming. And he had colored slides. I'm telling you, the very first one was Ronald Reagan riding a Velociraptor, having a machine gun in one hand and carrying the American flag in the other. And in the background was a giant explosion and a gigantic grin on Ronald Reagan's face as he went into detail, pointing to this gigantic poster behind him about what the Green New Deal really means for America. It was like story time for adults. It was absolutely amazing. If you could imagine the Cat in the Hat being real and reading a bedtime story to grown ass people, I was absolutely mesmerized. I laughed. I almost cried a couple of times. It was a very heartwarming moment for me watching this senator stand up there and he just literally dissected and just flushed down the toilet this entire Green New Deal using picture slides. The second slide, I think he switched from Ronald Reagan. He went to Aquaman. And on this Aquaman slide, there was Aquaman riding a 20-foot seahorse. And he said, okay, basically, if we're going to get rid of the internal combustion engine and all airplanes and the cows were the third slide. He said, if we're going to get rid of all airplanes, and he says, we've got a state floating out there in the middle of the Pacific Ocean called Hawaii. He says, I guess, we'll have to find Aquaman. We're going to have to get him to build us, to corral us up a bunch of 20-foot seahorses so that we can get to and from Hawaii. It was so far-fetched, but very plausible, I suppose. He just ripped this woman's deal to shreds, dude. To think that some garbage like that, some stupid shit like that, excuse my language again, earmuffs for the kids, would come out of the lower house, the lower chamber, and make its way to the Senate. I think it was a brilliant move by Mitch McConnell to bring this to the floor to actually have it voted on, because senators like Mike Lee just dissected and made AOC look like the clown that she is. It's not a single senator, not a single one of them voted for this damn bill. And then the third slide, it had all the cows on one side and no cows on the other side of the sheet of paper, on the cardboard slide on the poster. And he said, all the cows, all the little pictures of cows over here represent all the cows currently inside the United States of America. And then by the year, whatever, 20, whatever, underneath of the Green New Deal, there would be basically this side of the poster right here, where there would be no cows in the entire United States. And he says, I've flown to Oklahoma. I've walked around and talked to all the people, or he said, I walked around and talked to all the folks out there that think that this is a very, very bad idea. And they all had the exact same thing to say. Moo. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. This is the most entertaining. Since what was it? Ted Cruz got up there and read the Cat in the Hat on the floor of the Senate. This was Mike Lee just absolutely smacked this. He was like Bryce Harper for the Phillies, man. He absolutely smacked this one right on out of the park. So kudos to him. Even the moronic senators that even co-sponsored this bill and brought it to the Senate for a vote they just voted present. They didn't even vote in favor of it. It's just this is what passes for politics in the United States today. I mean, we've got socialists on the left of us. We've got communists on the right of us. We've got fascists, upstairs. We've got, dictators downstairs. It's almost like no matter which way we turn, we're screwed, and God forbid if Donald Trump loses the 2020 election, folks, because life as we know it in this country is going to come to a screeching halt. I do not feel, I will not feel safe for me and my family and my friends and my brothers and sisters in arms and us conservative patriots. I do not feel safe or any type of security in our safety if we were to lose this 2020 election coming up. That's how important this election is. Trust me, you heard it here first. If we lose this election, our entire way of life as we know it is going to come to an end. So, kudos again to Mike Lee. I am very, very, very tickled by his presentation on the Senate floor. So that brings me to my next topic, which is Jesse Smollett. Smollett. I still can't pronounce this guy's name the right way, and honestly, I like mispronouncing it better than I like pronouncing it. This guy, basically, he got fined $10,000, had to do 16 hours of community service, and was being charged with 16 felonies when all of a sudden the prosecutor's office in Chicago dropped the charges against him. What? Wait, what? They did what? They dropped the charges against this man? So let me get this straight. This guy pays two brothers to stage a phony assault attack on him, basically trying to spark a race war in this country. Damn near succeeds, lies to the police, ties up detectives in the most crime-ridden, murder-ravaged town in the United States of America during one of the coldest days of the year, okay, causing overtime and manpower shortages totaling over $130,000 and tying up investigators for well over a month. And this clown gets the charges dropped against him? How come I can't get that damn speeding ticket dropped from my ex-girlfriend? She blew a red light camera, down in Maryland or over in D.C. not too long ago. They can't even prove she was driving the vehicle, but she gets a $30 citation in the mail. And this guy gets 16 felonies dropped again. What the hell is happening to our country, folks? What would have happened if this guy had succeeded in sparking some sort? You know how many people whose lives he owes me an apology. Earmuffs, guys. He owes me a fucking apology. He owes you an apology. You want to know the reason why? Because as conservatives and as people of color, we are the most discriminated people walking up and down the street in this country today. We are the most discriminated against people, the most biased, the most looked down their nose upon. We are on the receiving end of all sorts of negativity and unabashed bigotry in modern society right now. And being a person of color, that's the extra kick in the ribs. That's the extra baseball bat blow to the back of the head for us. And this moron goes out here, and it's funny because he's an actor. He's a very well-known actor. He plays a very important role in one of the most successful, the television shows, for lack of a better word, because I don't watch Empire, so I wouldn't really know what to characterize it other than it's a television show that people watch a lot. So. I don't think I've ever sat through one single episode of it, and that was before I even heard who Jesse Smollett was. But as much as I, like and respect Terrence Howard and, his co-stars and stuff, that I just don't watch those blaxploitation, television shows like that. I just think they're garbage. But anyway, He got paid $1 million a year or something like that. Didn't like his salary, wanted more money, concocted some sort of fake ass story wrote it down on paper, made some sort of references to this, that, and the other, and then mailed himself a letter full of what was that? Baking soda, saying that it came from, MAGA and conservatives. I mean, this guy really could have done some damn damage. I mean, God forbid, he followed exactly in the same footsteps as that idiot that mailed all those damn bombs on, calling himself a conservative and a Republican. I think he was just a right-wing weirdo that mailed all those fake bombs to all these damn left-leaning politicians and Democrat politicians. That type of behavior is unacceptable. And if it's unacceptable for him, then how come Smollett's not being charged the same way that this guy is? And now you want to turn around, you want to drop all the charges for him. That's great. That just goes to show, and this just reinforces exactly what us conservatives have already believed for a long period of time. There are two types of justice in this entire country. There's justice for, the rich and the famous and those that are untouchable, like Robert Kraft down there in Miami when he was, soliciting sex workers as the owner of the New England Patriots and whatnot. They dropped the charges against him. There's a set of laws for people like him, and the Jussie Smollets and whatnot. And then there's the laws for the rest of us. I mean, I bet you won't hear anytime soon of any, police officer pulling a gun and accidentally shooting Robert Kraft, thinking that his wallet in his hand was a weapon of some sort. But, God forbid if you're the University of Maryland, a black female literally almost got arrested because she flipped out on some white kid wearing a Make America Great Again hat. I mean, we're getting to the point of ridiculousness in this country anymore, folks. And this is what passes as 21st century American behavior anymore. That's what that's what this is. This is the type of behavior that you condone, I suppose. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. Well, anyway, tune back in and, stay right there. Don't move. This is the Conservative Minded Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Helliva, and we'll be right back after this. You've got a major project coming up and you want to make sure that you get with the right consulting firm to make sure that you don't have cost overruns and that your project gets finished on time. Well, that's where you want to reach out to BAG Consulting Group, 240-401-7295, located in the Accokeek, Maryland area and Washington, D.C. and Virginia areas. BAG Consulting Group has the expertise to get the job done and get it done on time. They specialize in everything from pre-construction to construction and project management, and they're certified all the way through the state of Maryland to the Washington, D.C. metro lines. So when you want to reach out and make sure that your project gets done and gets done right, reach out to BAG Consulting Group.
You're listening to the Conservative Minded Podcast with Robert Waples.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Conservative Minded Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Helliva. So, today I was fortunate enough to read up on Donald Trump cutting aid. Donald Trump cut aid to El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, sending them tens of millions of dollars in foreign aid just so that they can turn around and push their populations north through Mexico and right on into the southern border of the United States. I think that this move by the president was absolutely genius, but I also predicted it coming. Everybody once said, a little while ago, well, how is Mexico going to pay for the southern border wall? Well, it won't necessarily be Mexico that pays for the southern border wall, but somebody's going to pay for the wall. I mean, if you think about it, if we send all of this money down there to these three countries, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, and they send all of their and do it exactly what Fidel Castro did in the 1960s and 50s, and that's open up the prisons and send all of his convicts to the United States. Basically, these three countries are doing exactly the same thing, except they're not sending their prisoners. They're sending their poor, they're uneducated, they're disease-ridden, they're criminals, they're gang members. They're sending them all north into the United States, and we're sending tens of millions of dollars to these countries exactly for what again? So I'm going to tell you exactly, and I told you this before, how Donald Trump was going to pay for the southern wall. He was going to hold back foreign aid and use that money or redirect those funds into securing the southern border. And that's how the southern border barrier, quote unquote, was going to be paid for. And today, Donald Trump made good again on another campaign. See, this is what success looks like. And it looks just like this, and it's so foreign to us. It's so different and out of this world to us that we take offense to everything anymore. That, you know, when a politician really steps up to the plate and follows through with his campaign promises, that this is what it looks like, y'all. This is exactly what it looks like. This is what happens when we have a politician that decides to keep his word. We've been lied to by the Democrat Party for so long as black people in this country. We've been lied to by Democrats for so long in this country as white conservatives in this country. We've been lied to by these politicians for so long that when these actual politicians get voted into office, you know, and they actually keep their campaign promises, it looks so foreign and so strange to us. It looks alien to us. And now we've got more than enough money to put up a southern barrier. So I just give a golf clap and say kudos to the President of the United States for coming through for the American people once again. You know, now, do I think that, you know, banning bump stocks was a good move? Absolutely not. I do not agree with the president at all for banning bump stocks. Am I a person who owns a bump stock? Never. Will I ever own a bump stock? Well, I can't. They're illegal. So being a law-abiding citizen, I will never own a bump stock. But it's just a novelty piece of garbage anyway. No self-respecting gun, fan or gun enthusiast would ever own to begin with. I just think that it's sort of like a fake suppressor on the end of a gun. It doesn't really serve any legitimate purpose other than for aesthetics. And since it doesn't serve a legitimate purpose, I don't want it or need it. And that's the same thing with a bump stock. I mean, it's stupid. But I don't think that it was right for the president to ban bump stocks just because he could, because that's essentially what he did. Infringing on someone's Second Amendment rights doesn't make it right just because a Republican does it. It's wrong no matter who does it. You know, we have the Second Amendment right. It applies to every American citizen, and that's that. It's not up for debate. There is no question as to whether or not it applies to this person or that person. If you're not a felon, then guess what? The Second Amendment right applies to you. If you're a citizen of this country, the Second Amendment right applies to you. Does it matter what color you are? No. Does it matter what gender you are? No. Does it matter what your economic status is? No, it doesn't, and it shouldn't. So just because Donald Trump banned bump stocks doesn't make it right. I think he infringed on the Second Amendment right. Now, he can make up to it for me. He can make up for it by passing universal carry across, state lines for, concealed carry permits or what we call national reciprocity. I think, he can lean on Mitch McConnell to bring that to the floor for a vote. It's already been passed by the House, and I think it's now or never for that bill. But, we still have a little bit of a wait and see attitude with Donald Trump. And, so far I'm pulling for him. I pull for every president of the United States because I love my country. And if the president succeeds, we succeed. If the president fails, we fail. And I don't know about you, but I definitely do not want this country to fail. So that brings me on to the next topic, the Mueller investigation. Ooh, the Mueller investigation. 2 years, folks. 2 years, and it's all over. It's all over. And the only thing that I can say is that thank God it's over. And what happened in the end? Exactly what I said was going to happen in the end. Nothing. We spent over $25 million, 500 search warrants, tied up and had to listen to, tied up airwaves and had to listen to false reports for 2 years, for a year and a half, a year and 3/4, for a majority of that time, all you kept hearing was, oh, the other shoe's going to drop. Oh, Donald Trump's going to go to jail. He's going to be let out of the White House in handcuffs. Yeah, how's that hot buttered crow taste? Because that's exactly what you're eating right now. You sounded like a bunch of morons then. I mean, Rachel Maddow on CNN physically, literally cried on national television because her president was not guilty of any crimes. How terrible and how pathetic has this country really become? I mean, we've got one guy that's out here. He's making up false accusations to try to spark a race war in this country, and we've got a CNN television host literally crying on television because her president is not guilty of any crimes. And that's where we're at right now. So, basically Robert Mueller turned in a report, and in this report he submitted it to the Justice Department. And basically, with the special counsel, he was supposed to type a report. He submitted it to Mr. Barr, and Mr. Barr, being the head of the Justice Department, basically went through and he has a duty to the American people to scrub this report of any sensitive or classified information that might be detrimental or have an adverse impact to the safety and security of the citizens and the government of this United States. And so what he did was he issued a 2-page report and put it out there to the Congress and to the Senate and sent it to the White House, basically saying that, in this report there is no evidence, there's no accusations, there's no any type of alleged conspiracy for collusion between the President of the United States and a foreign adversary. And people that I know personally are literally, they're just quiet. They're quiet as church mice. They get their church mouse on when there's nothing, when the things don't quite turn out the way that they think. It's terrible that we have a group of people have been brainwashed in this country so bad by the Democrat Party that they literally want the President of the United States to go to jail rather than to see this country succeed. And this is absolutely terrible. You know what? And now we've got Maxine Waters, who's in charge of the House Financial Services Committee, and she's going to investigate Trump's tax returns. And, but the only person that really seems like they've gotten any sense out of all this is Steny Hoyer. And Steny Hoyer said, hey, listen, Robert Mueller issued his investigation. He wrote his paper. He says there's no evidence of collusion. I'm going to let the sleeping dog lie. Basically, the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, said the exact same thing. But we've still got people in the House that are talking, what's this guy, Al Green? We're still going to start impeachment proceedings, and we're still going to do this, and we're still going to do that, and we're still going to investigate Donald Trump. For what? For what? The man hasn't done anything wrong. Trust me, there was nobody that wanted Donald Trump to be more in trouble and there's nobody walking this planet that wanted to be Donald Trump, earmuffs, kids, okay? There's nobody walking this planet that wanted to jam Donald Trump worse than Robert Mueller, okay? There just isn't. If there was something out there to get on Donald Trump, Robert Mueller would have turned it up. You want to know how I know? Because he locked up a whole bunch of people that had a whole lot to do with Donald Trump's campaign. None of it had anything to do with Donald Trump and any type of alleged crimes that the president committed. They were all crimes of, do you remember speaking to this person on such and such date and time? Man, I can't remember what I had for dinner last night, but no, I don't recall speaking to that person. Doesn't mean I didn't. Doesn't mean I did. I just don't remember. Oh, you're going to jail. That's obstruction. You're going to jail. So they sent a whole bunch of people like Papadopoulos and all these other people. They sent them to jail on basically, you lied to Congress. Well, if me forgetting, what was the 72 cents that I spent at the store, 3 years ago or 2 years ago, if that's enough to get me arrested, then you might as well go ahead and put the handcuffs on me right now. And so he's got a whole bunch of people that he's basically just going to, Donald Trump's going to give a pardon to and just call it a day, man. Not a single person that went to jail had anything to do with Donald Trump or any type of collusion. So there you go, folks. $25 million, 2 years, 500 search warrants, and God knows how many hours of us having to listen to this bullshit being pumped into our houses and all across our airwaves day after day after day. But it's all finally over. So to all you Democrats out there and all you liberals and progressives, I hope you're happy now. Can you please shut the hell up and get on with the business of the damn country? We've got the Middle East is about to spark off into, Israel's firing up their Iron Curtain. There's missiles being launched into Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. They're fighting over the Golan Heights in the West Bank. We've got Estonia and Latvia on the brink of war. You got India and Pakistan, two nuclear powers about to nuke the hell out of each other. You got China over here trying to build aircraft carriers and stuff and directly challenge the United States. North Korea is refusing to de-nuke. There's 1,000 other things that Flint still doesn't have any clean water. We've got the Midwest is basically underwater. We've got 1,000 other things that we've got migrants coming across and bringing third world diseases into this country to the likes we've never seen before. Diseases that we eradicated in the 1950s are starting to come back with a vengeance. Who the hell? Do you remember that MMP vaccine we used to get when we were kids? The measles, mumps, and rubella, or MMR vaccine that you used to have. Well, now measles and mumps are starting to run rampant across this country. And now unvaccinated kids are starting to be forcefully vaccinated by their parents. And, you got gun confiscation, and they're trying to get rid of the Electoral College, and they're trying to pass legislation to ban a private corporation like Chick-fil-A that doesn't adhere to pagan and satanic rituals. They're trying to force them out of the city limits so they can't open up businesses and stuff. We've got a very big crisis going on across the entire country, across the entire world. And we got these assholes back here called Democrats worried about Donald Trump and his fucking tax returns. I live near Washington, D.C., the most targeted city in the entire world, with damn near at least 1/3 of every country's nuclear weapons are aimed at that funny-shaped building across the river from here called the Pentagon. If a nuclear war accidentally or on purpose ever sparks off, we're in this area here, it'll be a nuclear wasteland for the next 20,000 years. Okay, and this is, believe it or not, very important to me. It should be very important to you. Instead, we've got people worrying about whether or not Donald Trump, built a hotel in Moscow 20 years ago. Who the hell cares? I don't care. I know you shouldn't care. I'm quite sure your kids don't care when they're playing on the playground and all of a sudden the air goes from, 78.6 degrees to 15,000 degrees Fahrenheit in less than a second. Let's concentrate on, let's get our priorities together here, folks. I hope that this right here, this is the end of this investigation. This is the end of this bullshit. Let's put all this stuff behind us. Let's meet in the middle. The Democrats shake hands with the Republicans. I'm a conservative, principle over party any and all day long. But at the same time, we still need to get work done. There are things in this country that need to be fixed. So let's concentrate on the things that matter and forget the things that don't. And we'll see you in the 2020 election ballot box. And the Republicans and the conservatives like me will see exactly where you Democrats stand when we go to the polls and we vote. And that's the way that we do things in this country, because you don't want it any other way. When the talking stops, that's when the guns come out. We don't want that. We're a civilized first world country. Let's stay that way. All right. So I want to say thank you for tuning in for this episode of Conservative Minded Podcast. I'm your host, Robert Waples, a.k.a. Mr. Helliva. Make sure that you go and check out the website, conservativeminded.net, and, feel free to hit me with some feedback and subscribe to the podcast. And until then, all you folks out there, take care of yourselves.
You've been listening to the Conservative Minded Podcast with Mr. Helluva Robert Waples. Make sure you subscribe and reach out to us on Twitter at conserve_minded. Email is robert@conservativeminded.net. And like our Facebook page at Conservative Minded, or give us a call at 240-233-6649. Catch you next time on the Conservative Minded Podcast.